This is the Brunsweiler River, and it's what's called a water gap. A water gap is where a river system from the Precambrian era was uncovered again by erosion. So this canyon here is a canyon that was in existence about almost 1 billion years ago and has been excavated again by erosion. So it's an ancient canyon, cutting through the Penokee Mountains.
And you see some raw stone up there.
And that's where we're going to the top of.
Ooh, good.
Yeah. And on top is a cedar hemlock forest, which is unusual
Cedar.
in an upland. Apple, a little crab apple.
Pineapple. What's that?
Crab apple.
Crab apple.
So throw those apple cores out.
Yeah. Crab apple.
Crab apple. Yeah. There's two kinds of horsetails here. The rough horsetail that Frank is photographing right now, and this is the wood horsetail. A big one too. This is very big for wood horse. Hopefully, some of them will be resistant to Dutch elm disease.
American elm.
Really nice. Usually they're not. So when they get a certain size, the bark beetles get in and spread the fungal disease and kill them. But you know, there's a lot of young ones. Maybe natural selection eventually will pick out resistant ones like it has in other parts of the country.
This is a hardwood swamp.
Hardwood swamp, yeah. Black ash and American elm.
That's American elm?
These are all American elm.
In here.
That have the leaves. Yeah.
Are they true?
It's really dry.
Look at the different kinds.
I know.
1, 2, 3. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And every year they put on another shelf. So this is this year's
Shell
fungus. Yeah. So it rings like a tree. It's a type of mushroom. Yeah. See, it's a pore fungus related to the boletes.
Okay.
It doesn't have gills. But it's one of the woody ones that just grows every year. We do our edible hardwood plant salad bar walk. We'll be eating some of these, but that's the only truly edible fern.
Is that one right there too?
These are the fronds. Yeah. Just dying back.
What is this?
And those are the fertile fronds with the spores. They stay all winter. So it's easy to identify ostrich fern by these structures.
Ostrich fern. Look at that.
Yeah, aren't they beautiful?
Look like
Take
scaly.
I did.
Yeah, and they have almost a little trunk like a tree fern. Yeah. They have a little trunk.
He told me.
this.
Nobody plants them in yards because they do really poorly under cultivated greenwood fern. And you can see the evergreen is divided a little bit more than the spinulose wood fern is. And the other way to tell them, there's a couple other ways to tell them apart. The evergreen wood fern, like its name says, stays green just like this all winter long. Then come spring, you'll see the fronds on the ground. The spinulose wood fern isn't truly evergreen. It dies. It eventually dies. Typically the second leaflet on the bottom, on a mature one, is going to be longer than the first. On the spinulose wood fern, the first leaflet on the bottom is going to be the longest. See how it tapers.
Are they edible?
No, but the evergreen ones used to be collected for for florist greens. So back before they imported fern leaves from the tropics, from Hawaii and that for the florist shops, people would collect these to make some money collecting these locally to sell to florist shops. Yeah, so that's a yellow birch, not the biggest one, but it's a good size.
Pretty good size.
But the yellow birch is most similar to the cloud forest trees that they have on stilts, like in Costa Rica. Buttresses like this, tropical trees tend to do this. You don't see it much in temperate trees, but yellow birch is one that actually will do that. It'll also be, as we saw earlier, it'll grow up on stilts too, where it has started on a stump and then sucked up the nutrients in the stump, and the stump is decayed, and so the tree's up on stilts, and seems to be whitewood wind firm doing that.
Hey Mike, do these grow by sprouts? It looks like that. So this one's the extension of that one.
No, but
There's
that's
two
a separate tree.
Separate.
Yeah,
Really? Because they look like the same that have the same
it does,
roots.
but they're not.
They're not like aspen.
They're not like aspen.
Or
No.
yeah, it's got a love seed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, cool.
Kit, here, take a seat. Oh, there he goes, Kit. Look at that's huge.
Look at the size of the bark peelings and the patterns that are on them.
Perfect.
Wow.
How come we don't see very many of these? Just
Well, they were logged off in the 1930s for veneer.
lichens there.
And then
We're liking this.
that is a nice one, yeah. And then we have these different mosses.
Mosses.
And zones of different ones again. You know, it's like a mountain again. And
And what's over
different
here?
zones.
That's a different type of moss.
Some lichen, these little lichen cups.
Those are lichen
with the-
cups. What's like?
They
okay,
call,
this
they call
is
these pixie cups. These are
moss.
and this is moss.
Oh, what's that? This is a different type.
That's
of
a
moss.
different kind of moss. That one's dicranum.
Oh, how come
this
we got
moss.
so much on just one surface here?
Random spores germinating, and also elevation. You can see this part here is a little bit different. You know, it's more exposed, dries out faster, so you're getting more lichens here at this where it sticks out, as opposed to where it's more sheltered. Look down here. Here's a lower elevation for one of the fern mosses growing down here,
Yeah.
and that doesn't come very high in elevation,
We
does
got
it?
some trees growing in this.
And little cedars and
So
balsam.
eventually that guy will just be a big tree in the
Whenever you see a rock made of crystals like this, you know that this was magma that cooled underground. So the molten rock did not come to the surface in this case. And and the larger the crystals, and there's some pretty good sized ones here, the deeper down it cooled, because the slower the rock cooled, the bigger the crystals had time to grow. The longer the crystals had time to grow, the larger they got. So this was a glob of magma that cooled in underneath the Penokee Mountains from all of the heat of the subduction and everything that was going on. The type of magma that a rock that this cooled from magma from looks to me to be a diorite, and a diorite is kind of a grayish rock, intrusive rock that cooled underground, and it's a mixture of continental crust and oceanic crust. If it would be just melted continental crust, you would have a granite, but then you would see the granite minerals, the quartz, the white quartz, and the pink and black feldspars, but you don't see that in this. If it would be just oceanic crust, it would be really black, and it would be a gabbro like you have in Duluth, the black outcrops there. That's oceanic magma. But this is too light for that, so this would be a diorite. So when the continents collided to form the Penokee Range, there was some oceanic crust trapped between the two, so it could have come from there, or it could have come from even deeper underneath the continental crust. So I'm not sure which case that would be, but anyway, there's a mixture of the both kinds.
And
of
Mike,
crust.
the reason if this was formed underneath the crust, the reason we can see it now is erosion.
Erosion,
Right,
yeah. So these are the very basement rocks of the Penokee Mountains. You know, these mountains were, 10, 12,000 feet high or more. They were gigantic mountains, and so over billions of years, the erosion has just worn them down to their roots. And that's what we're seeing here. So all the rock here would have been buried deep underground inside the mountains.
Mike.
When the continents came together, well, actually like this, they came together, an ocean crust in between, they just squished the ocean crust. And so over where the proposed iron mine is, that's the ocean crust layer that got tilted up and down like that between the two continents and got squished.
And that's why there's iron there.
And that's why there's iron, because it's the
Hmm.
ocean bottom from the iron bacteria that laid that down. And so when they proposed to mine it, they would have to go down at quite an angle to get it, because it's only
900
that
feet.
narrow strip going down at an angle.
And is it beautiful like this with all this
It's
vegetation and stuff?
It's beautiful. Yeah, the area, we took a field trip where the proposed mine tailings would have been dumped, and it would have filled in a beautiful blue lake. It would have filled in Tyler's Fork, which is like you walk up this stream, and all of a sudden, it's like a fairy tale. There's a box where the river comes through with waterfall after waterfall after waterfall coming through there. It's incredible, and that would have all been filled with tailings.
God.
Large bear area on there. Look, I've never seen a pattern like that.
Oh, it looks dead.
No, that's perfectly healthy. Look at the crown.
Looks got loose.
I didn't know if it was dead or if it's just lost.
A lot of rock.
Oh yeah, this is the way we went last time.
We call that rock tripe.
Rock tripe.
The lichen. It's growing. It looks like a leaf.
It's one of the foliose lichens, one of the leaf-like lichens.
Rock tripe. On top of an old mountain. Feels like we're on a mountain.
like a sponge. There's no rock. Yep, there's no rock there. It keeps growing like a coral.
Now, why are they up here? We saw them on the lower elevation last week.
They like any place that's highly acidic. So it shows there's a lot of acidity in the soil. Here's one that's getting drier. You can see it's starting to get white.
White cushion moss. Yeah. So we're on top of the Penokees. Feels like we're on a mountain. There's a river down there. So we're up here. There's Jim from Rice Lake. Yeah. You're a long way from Rice Lake, Jim. This is a cedar hemlock.
This is a liverwort here for Landia. If you had a magnifying glass, you can see little overlapping scales on it. And these are lichen. These are blue shield lichens. And here's green shield lichen. Green shield lichen. Well, here's both of them together. Blue shield lichen growing over green shield lichen.
Good for toughness.
Wet areas, they'll even grow on tree branches. Balsam fir is a lot more common than hemlock. And it's a short-lived tree, doesn't get very large typically. And an easy way to identify balsam from hemlock is that balsam, the ends of the branches make a cross. See the crucifix?
Yeah.
And the needles are fairly long, like 3/4 of an inch long. We're going to see some yew later on, some Canadian yew. And it'll be greenish underneath, but both the balsam fir and the Canadian hemlock are bluish white underneath, whereas the yew will be yellowish green. Okay, so that's balsam fir, long needles, makes an X. Hemlock, on the other hand, let's find a typical branch here. Let's use this one. Hemlock does not make a cross at the end. It's more alternate. And see how the branches are arranged, branchlets are arranged alternately. And look at the length of the needles. Let's grab a piece of balsam here. Look at the difference in the length compared to balsam.
A
lot shorter, darker, typically. Yep, they're both pale whitish blue underneath. But you can see that the balsams are a lot longer needled. So that's how. So this
is bracken fungus.
Bracken fungus.
It looks like a corduroy.
And they're perennial too. I mean, they send out another ring every year. So this year's is the last. So you can see the rings year after year. And can you tell which ones were growing on the tree when it was upright? See how they went this way? So that's when it was still standing. Then when it fell, they started going. The mushrooms are always horizontal capped. Any idea why? Water. Yeah. Umbrellas.
Now, where are they?
They spores have to fall out. They can't be wet. Where the spores. Oh, yeah, it's one of the shield lichens. Isn't that beautiful?
It is beautiful.
Yeah.
Design. Why is it circular?
Well, it's a fungus with the
Just
algae
going up?
cells inside, so it grows like a bread mold.
So it's weird that these are high elevation cedars, right? Because usually you find these in swamps. Why are they up here then, do you think? Any idea?
They haven't been cut. It hasn't burned, hasn't been cut. And we had the same thing by Hayward.
Really?
Yeah.
In high elevation?
Well, that hill I told you about near Spring Lake has cedar hemlock on top. With none of them around it.
Okay.
So if it's been left alone and not burned, hasn't been logged, hasn't been burned, they'll persist in places like this.
We're going down now.
Wow, look at the roots on this yellow bird. Wow. It's going all along there. Look at along the rock.
Roots of the yellow birch. There's a root here in the side of this. I'm using it for holding. Pretty cool. This is a Canadian yew. It's dark, and this is a hemlock. It's lighter, and it doesn't have a cross shape. And those are guys going down the river. I'm way behind them.
It's on the ground, Canadian yew. And if you flip it over, that's what tells you it's Canadian yew. Look at the color.
No, it's green.
The greenish yellow, yellowish green. Yeah. Compared to where's a
like a neon green.
But yeah,
Still flat needles.
flat needles. Yep.
It's got the cross shape too.
Yeah, kinda, maybe.
Close to- not perfect
Yeah,
cross.
not perfect. There's a little alternate.
Balsam are perfect.
Balsam are perfect,
These aren't.
opposite. Yeah,
that'll never
these
grow
are
into a
these are
tree.
slightly alternate. And it'll never. The biggest ones I've seen were actually on Reserve Road, on the reservation, and they were over my head. So they were about 7 feet tall, 8 feet tall,
6 feet
and
across.
huge. I mean, wide. They're bushes. They're not trees
Okay.
in our area, but the
Okay.
branches can grow up that high.
How long until this piece just flops off?
Big one close. What piece?
Right here, where
Oh yeah, it's just. What's that called, Mike?
I don't know what the name of the lichen is, but I've only seen it on a couple of occasions on sheer cliffs. So this is the wall of the canyon. So this is the Precambrian canyon wall. Yeah, going along here.
This is rock trunk. This is not bark.
No,
This is actually a lichen.
that's the lichen, a piece that fell off the cliff.
This is that's cliff side, and this is the exposed side. But you can actually eat this.
Yeah, it's an
Yeah.
emergency food. Yeah, I guess it tastes pretty bad. But if you're starving,
Rock trunk.
cook it up and eat it.
Amazing. It's a lichen.
takes a while to chew it up.
It's alive. Yeah,
Wow.
or it was alive. Maybe it's not anymore. Well, Fern, that's the one that's from back in the Permian. It's a living fossil. Hasn't changed since the continents were together.
Oh, it's kind of big.
It is.
Rounded shape.
It's like the fossils you find in the coal mine. There's a bigger one. Oh, let's look at the nicer one. Here's a better one.
It's a royal fern.
So that's a living
Big.
fossil too. From back, sailback reptiles. That's the time when the first fossils of these showed up. But back then they had trunks, and they've been getting progressively
Now, why do they call
shorter.
them royal ferns?
Because they move like the crown when the fiddleheads first come up.
These are royal ferns. You got big.
Big-
What do you call these?
Pinnae. The leaflets are pinnae.
Tiny, yeah.
Yeah. So it's a very primitive fern.
That's the same as Penokee.
That's a good.
What? Shit.
Oh, yeah. You're gonna get it? Okay. So this is primeval Wisconsin woods. Canadian yew used to be one of the most common understory shrubs throughout northern Wisconsin. And the larger ones were the traditional bow material for Indians, just like Robin Hood's merry men used yew for wood in Europe. Indians in the north used yew here also.
So, Mike, is there any way we can reintroduce you?
Not without a high deer population.
Or you have to get rid of the deer. You have to manage the deer.
Because any shady woods they'll grow really nicely.
okay.
But they're the favorite winter food of deer.
Okay.
So-
then, is it nutritional or is it just?
Yeah, they'll pick out the plants that are the most nutritious first. Cliff face, where no snow lays
face.
over winter.
That's why we're seeing so many of this.
Yeah.
Lichen.
So wherever you see it, the snow doesn't stay in the wintertime. Because I've tried transplanting it, and snow cover will kill it. They'll just rot under the snow.
Could you put it on the side of a barn or something? Or no?
I've never seen it on wood. It's always on rock.
Oh, interesting.
So if you have if you have one of those houses that's built of cobbles, maybe you could. Remember this when you first come up?
Greenbrier.
Greenbrier.
I have a lot of these in my place. Greenbrier. It's got kind of a spiny,
And this one's the bristly greenbrier.
bristly. Oh, there's another guy?
In other parts of the country, in the east, there's different species.
What is this? So like little.
Yeah, this is a different kind of lichen. There's actually a couple different ones. These are pixie cups. I'm not
Yeah.
sure what these are. I have to look in the book for that one.
Yeah, we didn't see these anywhere else, I don't think.
More sun, more than likely here.
Yeah, they're like they look more like a mushroom almost. Yeah.
And those little inside of them would be well, you can't call them spores. They're the algal cell with a fungal thread wrapped around, kind of like I mentioned
okay.
before. The pea with the ramen noodle around it,
Right.
and then the wind or the rain splashes them out of there. Moss expert for the Midwest.
Oh, really? This is a tree moss.
How do you, M-O-H-R?
Tree moss.
Rohrer.
Came from that rock.
Yeah, so that's who I send pictures to in moss.
Vine weed. Plant. It's just a vine. Insect galls on. More galls, dude.
Sensitive plant.